We'll get started. First question, Mark Berman.
Stephen, first of all, Happy New Year. Was everybody at practice today?
No, we still have Ben McLemore and KJ Martin going through the protocol. That was it. Mason Jones hurt his ankle today in practice, so he was on the side. But besides that, we had everybody else.
When do you expect to get those guys back?
I guess sometime they're thinking they're supposed to be in the protocol through the weekend.
Kelly Eco.
Coach, in spite of the guys that are not here, how was having a good part of the roster available in practice today?
Oh man, it was so good. It was so good to just have everybody there, and you obviously miss the talent and the ability that those guys have, but you also miss the personality that they are and the smarts that they bring to the situation. So like during the film session, it was great to have those guys chiming in and chirping as we go through the film, and it was really, really good to have those guys back.
Jonathan Fagan.
You're playing a team that will be playing its fifth game, while a lot of your guys will be playing their first. But those are your more veteran guys, or some of them. Can they be where they need to be at this point, or is that too much to ask? Is that a process that will continue for a while?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it is a process that's going to continue for a while. You would hope game one, with our game one in Portland, we had a lot of energy and guys were ready to play, and we played 40 plus minutes with a handful of them. So you would hope that it would be similar, but as far as the protocols that they've been going through up until this point, and they haven't really been working out, and being with the team, it's really hard to say what we'll see tomorrow with those guys.
Was it enough of a practice for you to see where they are in terms of their conditioning?
Yes and no. I mean, we competed. We did some half court stuff. We did some full court stuff, and they hung in there. They're fine. I didn't see any wear. I saw a little bit of rust, but not wear.
Thank you.
Brandon Scott.
Hey, Stephen, I'm just curious, early on in the season, if you've been able to pick up on any trends around the league that stand out to you about the start of the season. Is there anything like that has maybe stood out to you?
I think the trend that it's been hard for people to prepare in such a short period of time, and the readiness of teams going into games. I mean, you see some of these scores, and there's some blowouts and some games where, teams just aren't kind of functioning well as a group. And that has a lot to do with the short time period that we've had for preparation time, and then guys kind of getting in shape and that sort of thing. So I think you'll see a large variance as far as the scores are concerned, whether it's really close or the blowouts that we've been seeing across the league. For us as a group, obviously we've had a lot of that as far as guys being in and out, and the practice time not being what you want it to be. But I think it's something across the league, especially for teams that haven't been together for very long.
Adam Spolin.
Stephen, what have you thought of the pace that you guys have played at so far?
I always wish we could play a little bit faster, but I'm not exactly sure where we are as far as pace is concerned. But beating teams down the floor and attacking them before they get the defense set, those are two things that I want to do and play with that pace. So which kind of fits our group. The issue over the last couple of games has been guys have been playing so many minutes, right? So the Portland game, we had guys play 40 plus minutes, and then I think you saw the residual effect going into the Denver game, which is always a tough place to play. With the altitude, with 9 guys, you're not going to have the same pace that you would have. So very, very small sample size. And but to answer your question, I want us to play a little bit faster.
Cody Davis.
Hey, Coach. After seeing what Christian Woods has been able to do, what are some of the advantages that you have knowing that you would now have 2 big men who are able to stretch the floor with DeMarcus Cousins coming back tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Christian has the ability to pop and roll. We saw in the Portland game that he had some good rolls to the rim, and James has a way of finding him in the paint over 2 or 3 defenders, and he can go get it, as we saw. John also has the ability to make those plays to a roller or a popper, and the job that those guys do, kind of drawing the second defender, makes it hard on the defense. And Cuz is very much the same way. His shooting ability allows us to either draw the second defender and make a play back to him, or allows us the space, because you can't play back on those guys as a defensive center. You have to play up on those guys, and that gives us wider lanes, more ability to get to our drive and kick game, and more ability to cut into the paint.
Ali Khanbajani.
Hey, Coach, when we talked to you after the Portland game, you mentioned Christian will continue to improve defensively. After watching the film, and just for bigs overall, what goes into their reads and drop coverage, and how high they have to be along the perimeter, especially after going against shooters like Lillard and Murray on those high screens? And were you happy with how he played in that coverage for the first 2 games?
Yeah, it's a work in progress, but especially – so the issues with those 2 teams are they have big, strong bigs who can punish you in the post, and then they have the shooters coming off the screen, as you said, Lillard, McCollum, and Murray. So to be in a true drop in those situations is very hard, because if you're in a true drop, then you're just relying on the make or miss ability of those players. So you have to be up a little bit. Which brings your protection in, and makes it a little bit harder to do. So since we're introducing this as a alternate or base defense, as opposed to the switching that this team has done in the past, it's new. It's new for everybody. So C-Wood's doing the best job he can. We went over a lot of pick and rolls today, and it's going to be a process for all of them.
Thank you.
Ben DeBose.
Coach, you mentioned with Christian the thicker bigs, the guys like Jokic and Nurkic that you played the first 2 games. Now that you have DeMarcus back, what's your outlook on potentially playing those 2 bigs, DeMarcus and Christian, together at times? Is that something you're open to in the right matchup?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to it. I mean, to have DeMarcus who can hold his own against those guys down low, and then we don't have to get into so many help situations as you saw in the Jokic game, or the Denver game against Jokic. We had to help a lot, which opened up all of the things that he does well, which is really pass the ball, find cutters, and then offensive rebounds, since we're out of position in front, 3-quartering, whatever it may be. So to have Cuz out there will definitely help our post defense. But then Christian has the ability as a stretch 4, which I guess all 4s maybe are stretched now. It used to be there'd be the Matt Bullards of the world who were stretch 4s, but C-Wood can definitely hold that role and play pick and roll and make it hard on teams to guard.
Michael Wright.
Yeah, Coach, you've got a roster that turned over quite a bit, from last season, and you don't really have the benefit of a bubble to where you can kind of confine all the guys together. So how do you kind of, given the limitations right now with the coronavirus, how do you go about the team bonding activities that, sort of help with the chemistry?
Yeah, on the road, we try to do things, dinners and whatnot. We've only had a couple road trips, but at home, it's definitely important for guys to spend time with their families. And like you said, they're in the bubble for such a long time. To spend time with your family is an important thing for your mental health. And if you're coming into the gym after spending a day with your family, you're probably coming into the gym with a better attitude than you would have been if sitting in your room in the bubble for multiple days in a row, missing your crew. So as much as we're trying to do collectively as a group to make sure that guys are bonding and the camaraderie is like being fostered, we also have to be attentive to the fact that family first and the well-being of an individual is very much connected to their ability to be around their family.
Brian Bearfield.
Coach, you spoke earlier about how excited you were to have your team back at full strength. How excited was John Wall and, DeMarcus Cousins, Eric Gordon? How excited were they to be back on the court today with you all, knowing that they have to restart themselves because they were so ready to play on last week?
Yeah, it seemed like they were really excited. You definitely have to ask them their level of excitement. But from my perspective, like I said during the film, and my mask is killing me today. Like I said during the film, on the court when we were going over the defensive stuff, like the whole spirit of the group was really, really good, and those guys contributed to it for sure.
We'll take two more. Kelly Eco.
Hey, Coach, you kind of spoke about the random offense earlier in the season, and obviously being a shorthanded team, were you trying to get more structure as opposed to random? And now with guys coming back, how do you find that balance between the random offense you want and obviously the structure that you put in place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the last two games, it was really trying to find the right balance of being random and structured. The structured part had to be well thought out because we really didn't have ball handlers besides James, right? So figuring out ways for James to give it up and get it back, or figuring out ways for guys to catch and go as opposed to having to have like primary ball handling duties. It'll be much easier moving forward to have multiple guys who can handle the ball, be initiators, and we can kind of mix up the randomness of our pace game, 5-out stuff, as well as making sure that guys are getting catches on specific places on the floor. So, the last two games were tough to coach because when you have just one guy who can bring the ball up the floor for the most part, besides Jayshawn Tate, who did an okay job with it, it makes it hard to be random. You have to just get to more pick and rolls and play calls and that sort of thing.
Last question, Mark Berman.
Stephen, will you have to are you going to restrict the minutes of DeMarcus, Eric, and John, given they've been out for a while?
I don't know yet. I have to talk to the performance staff about that. I guess we were kind of waiting to see what they look like today and how their bodies respond to today. And then I think I'll have a better feel for that for tomorrow's game.
Thank you, Coach. We appreciate your time.